Poison Ivy number 14. Ay. Oh, what a bunch of nonsense.
My thoughts is maybe the publishing schedule got shifted. So originally when they were releasing it, Night Terrors was going to end, and then it was going to pick up with Ivy 15 or 16 is my only guess, because 14 is a direct continuation of 13.
Yeah, and the funny play, that's what I was saying. You'll agree, I think, the idea, if we get to issue 16, and then they're like, oh man, just woke up from that Night Terrors, going to be like, what the hell are you talking about? And the reason why I really say it, unless I missed it, you should really have an editor's note. Editor's note, this takes place before Night Terrors. This issue takes place, and then so when we get to it, we realize, and they've done that. There has been some things like that, but it is Poison Ivy number 14, written by G. Willow Wilson, Marcelo Takara on art, Arif Priano on colors, letters by Hassan Sameh El Hwao. And when you get into this, I always have the art enough. Gets a little, at points it does get a little wonky. You end up wanting to have this almost like you're, dropping acid at points. And it happens again in this issue, and I don't really get what fully was going on at some points because of that. But you want Ivy, I get, right? You're getting a Poison Ivy book, and really what this ends up being is a story where Ivy's walking around. She really wants that hunting shed in the swamp. She's doing her deal. And then it just shifts to Janet from HR. Why is Janet from HR the main focus? And did you laugh? Because what Ivy does, she ends up saying, oh, Undine, I know this name. I got to figure it out. She has enough of she says that her internet is bad in the shack, but she can call still. So she called. The only reason Janet from HR gets involved is because Ivy calls her and says, please look up this stuff, which then sets up the story for Janet at HR. I don't want to see Janet from HR. It's not Janet from HR book. Legitimately, I don't know if you look at the reviews on Comic Roundup. There is a blurb this week that I said might be my favorite blurb ever. It made me laugh, where this person said, I love this Ivy book so much, and when are we going to get the Janet from HR miniseries? I'm like, if you're waiting for that Janet from HR miniseries, you're going to wait for a long time. Can you imagine them trying to sell that Janet from HR in the new book, wacky stuff? I'm like, there's no way. But really, you don't get much of Ivy except, again, this, over narration of what it is like to be Ivy and villain versus hero type.
I'm trying to think. I think there was one cool Ivy thing. Obviously, I think the ending of this was actually cool, and it did tie in to 13. There was, one cool Ivy thing in here. What the fuck was it? She follows the pheromone footprint trail.
She ends up having her own version of, breadcrumbs that she ends up being able to do. That was cool. And she said, but in the meantime, she's like, hey, Janet from HR, I need you to go to this Undine place. You're going to end up applying for a job. And says you're great at it. You're the best job getter. This is the worst interview ever. This would be like me, and somehow I'm like, hey, there's an opening over at Twitter or X, right? And I'm like, oh, that's cool. So oh, what's up? What's going on? I'm like, where's Elon? I want to meet Elon Musk. She's right away in this interview.
Yeah, that literally happens.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Udine was a hero of mine in business school. Is there any way I could, I don't know, pop by his office and say hi?
I love it. This lady's like, stalker. And then puts it in the trash can. And even then, you get this weird, because the story has to be set up now through Janet from HR. So it's a bad interviewer. Hey, can I go meet him? No, actually, you can't. He's got a weird schedule. But hey, I don't know about you, but why is this HR person for Undine starting to talk about, you know what? There's a lot of wacky talk about us doing weird stuff on the job site. And it's all to set up maybe that she thinks that Janet is a reporter. You're still going too far. You just tell her to get the fuck out. You're like, okay, that's it. Nice interview. We'll talk to you later. Goodbye. Leave. No, they waltz around this whole place talking about the idea. Yeah, people have these accusations that Undine has these new sites he has to hide tox. Why would you bring this up to anybody, let alone somebody you don't know, that just applied for a job? And then she says at the end, yeah, you might, be a reporter. And then, well, you just gave him 6 headlines.
Well, this is the worst fucking receptionist of all time. We're aware of the accusations that this building site hide toxic waste. All false, of course. What? Don't tell them.
Yeah, don't put that idea in anybody's head. I love it. It's not even like Janet from HR said. I always laugh saying that because that's legitimately what they go with her character name, Janet from HR never said oh man, I've heard weird things, but I don't believe him because Undine, he's my hero. No, they see some pictures, and then Janet says, Like the idea, can I get a hard hat and work on site? Like I can work a backhoe. I don't know how, but I think I can do it. And like, no. Like, again, why
What
are you
job
doing
are you
this?
applying for?
Yeah, get the fuck out of here. The best is I do think, like she does say, this lady that she's talking to is like the HR person for Undine. There's Janet, who's an HR. There's no way this person, they're going to be hiring the replacement. Get them. So she's like, I can work on the site. Oh, well, on site, they say we're hiding chemicals. Oh, really? It is one of those things. It is a Simpsons-esque deal.
Fucking video game dialogue.
Yeah, you would have Mr. Burns end up saying to some EPA guys, oh, you must be here because of all that nuclear waste we have hidden. And then they say, oh, no, we're just here for, okay, forget I just said that, and they move on. Like, that's what it's so bad. But while that's going on, you just have Ivy walking through the shack trying to figure out, it doesn't make sense. It's really, but like you said, at the end, Willow Wilson is able to at least throw something in that you're like, all right, but why is it that, I don't know, we haven't talked until now. To me, lately, a lot of times, a cliffhanger isn't to me like, oh my God, that makes so much crazy sense. I want to see what happens. And you want to go to the next issue because we'll continue the course. It ends up where when you get to cliffhanger, I'm like, why the fuck did we get nothing before that? Like, that's the only thing that ends up in a book. Like, oh, that was cool. But what about before? What about leading up to it? What about all that? And it keeps doing that. But Janet, I'll even let you go because Janet from HR, she's like, okay, well, that didn't go really great. I'm going to now walk down this alley and get attacked by Batman. Like,
dude,
what?
That's what I wanted to talk about. This Batman makes little to no sense, let alone that this entire Janet from HR, I just counted the pages. It is a third of the entire book. This character's a funny bit sometimes. Like, if I had a one-issue story in an April Fool's issue or whatever,
you could go with that.
I could go with that. This character can be a side character Poison Ivy can talk to. Like, the extent of Janet's involvement in this specific issue should have been Ivy calling her, telling her to find her some information, and then hanging up and going back to the warehouse.
And doing things, yeah.
Not picking up this entire middle story, and then just to have Batman, who theoretically, until we get an editor's note, should be fighting the Gotham War right now, but just seems to be making infinite time for these people.
Yeah. And here, I'll go here, and you're more continuity than me. If somebody said to us, like, we might think this happens before Night Terrors, so they're like, oh, no, well, the Gotham War wouldn't have started, then I'm like, well, then Batman wouldn't be there anyway, because he'd be still in the fail-safe, world without a Batman and that Gotham. Like, so Batman showing up here throws it off no matter how much you look at where it would be. And plus, in this, again, you have artificially set up a reason to make the focus on Janet with that call. Hey, I need you to go and apply for this, apply for that. But then when Batman shows up to warn Janet, I think Batman has better things to do.
This is like a signal job.
Yeah, and you're elevating Janet in that weird way of having Batman real concern for her. Oh my God, you can't get involved with these bad guys. You can't get and you know what I mean? Like the Batman somebody would go, hey, what about that Janet from HR? It's like, listen, I got a lot on my plate right now. I don't need to think about Janet from HR.
Janet from HR.
It's ridiculous. And I'd like to say, is the middle name and her last name's HR? That's a real weird name. I don't get it. But even in this all deal, you even have before where Janet, there was that play that might have been interesting. Hey, what is Ivy and Janet going to do? What is Harley going to think? Harley and Pam together, all that.
Well,
they're going to be jealous.
Harley's just making out with Janet in this issue.
And you played at the beginning where it seemed like, and I thought, okay, I don't need this book to be full jokey. But if you have Harley and you get a little wacky, I thought that it would have been a funny play through this where Poison Ivy, right? She said, oh, my friend Janet from HR, my girlfriend Harley. Oh, man, they get along so well. Every time Poison Ivy leaves, Harley's trying to kill Janet. And Janet's trying to, and then saying like, man, because she says to Poison Ivy, Pam, I don't know. I think Harley, and she almost said, I think Harley's trying to kill me. And Pam would never, Harley's just crazy. There could have been a really fun play and set up the deal that finally, with things that go on, that Harley does take a liking to Janet, that you set that up, earn that. But in this, they just start making out. They just start, the minute they're together, because you end up having Janet hit Batman with her purse and run away, and then Harley grabs her. Oh my God, you hit Batman with a purse. This feels weird too with the overall continuity. Not just the stories going on, but Harley being accepted more as a Bat family member. And then all of a sudden she's like, oh, you don't want to get near them. And everything's wacky. And then they start making out just to cause more friction and have the idea of Pam trying to get a hold of them. Oh, man, I don't have a signal. Oh, crap. Oh, my. But then you do end with that play of what is going on, what on earth's happening, and then you end up having the end with the villain coming in that I originally thought, like, even with what has led into this or whatnot, that it looks a lot like Mr. Bloom used to in the New 52, which kind of made me laugh. But did you like
Very fair. But, like, we already know who this villain is, right? Who this villain's related to, so it doesn't even feel like they're introducing a new villain to me. It just feels like this is the evil business guy, and the evil business guy does evil business things. And
Evil
why Ivy
business
didn't
things,
just kick the shit out of Killer Croc and kick him out of a
I
swamp
know.
is beyond me.
It's so weird, this, like, connection. You have to be there. But like you said, even when it's such a, like, there are ways to do, horror type stories, tension building and things, and even not horror. But the idea of everything's telegraphed. And then when you get to the end, like you said, it's cool that you get this, but you're not like, oh shit, like I didn't think of it. You're like, that's what I thought would happen. Okay. And then you move on. But again, the excitement of maybe a story happening is like, that's what I get from the cliffhanger. Oh, it's like the Joker. The men who stop laughing when you get to an ending and you go, oh man, this will be cool. We'll finally get a story. It's not a great thing to say about a book, but that shows because I haven't liked the book. But what did you think about this issue?
It's just not enough issue in the issue.
Yeah.
We've yet to see Poison Ivy, like, actually fight. We've seen her use her powers. We've seen her mildly scuffle with people. But, I mean, the fight with Batman in issue 13 was a waste. They ended up just talking and Batman walks away. And I'm like, why would you walk away? And why are you here also?
I don't know. You give me your score, and then we'll get the hell out of here.
If I'm scoring the rest of the series up to date, everybody's just now hearing me talk about these for the first time. The rest of the series is a 3, do not buy. Issue 13, for me, when it starts getting tolerable, is a 5, and this one's back down to a 4.
I'm a 4 as well.